evening and welcome to the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, January 8th, 2020. Has this meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Please call the roll.
Carlin?
Here.
Evans?
Here.
Garner?
Here.
Herzog?
Here.
Olmsted?
Here.
Peschel?
Here.
Szilagyi?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. The next item of business is our Pledge of Allegiance, and today we are very fortunate to have two sisters from Webster Stanley Elementary School join us tonight to lead us in the pledge. So girls, come on forward and get us started.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So cute.
So I know that Zahara is the older sister, so we'll start with her. So Zahara, thank you so much for coming tonight and leading us in the pledge. It's really special when we have students at our board meetings. So I want to thank you for taking time out to join us tonight and for bringing mom and dad and also your principal, Mrs. Galeazzi. And Ella, same to you. Thank you for coming tonight, bringing mom and dad and your principal. We really appreciate your spending time with us tonight. You're welcome to join us for the rest of the meeting, but if you have homework to do or other things, we certainly understand. So thanks again.
Thank you. You can stay. Get a seat.
Okay, our next agenda item is board and administrative reports. Board president reports. I just continue to be so proud of our students and our staff members who work so hard each and every day to make a positive difference in the lives of our students. Since we were last in session as a board, I've had opportunities to attend additional concerts during the month of December. And I've also attended the Northwest JV girls and boys basketball games as well as the varsity games. And I was so impressed with how hard those students worked on the court, even if the score at the end of the game didn't quite tell or reflect the effort that they put in. So kudos to all of them. I also had a chance last Saturday to attend the West High School Wildcat Dance Competition, which was very exciting. I didn't know that there could be so many dance moves on a gym floor. But congratulations to Mackenzie Wissink and to her volunteers and others who assisted with the success of that event. In this month, we have some exciting things coming up, and I suspect that our student representatives will talk about that, but musicals will be shared with us by West High School at the end of this month and by North High School the second weekend in February. So lots of things to look forward to in addition to the many things that are going on in our middle schools, where they are always looking forward to having people come and see them. So please check out our website for additional information on the many positive things that are happening throughout our school district due to the benefits of students, staff, and their parents. Thank you. So with that, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Herzog. So tonight we have two representatives from both of our high schools, and we're going to go ahead and get started first with Cabal Yang from Oshkosh North High School. Cabal.
Thank you. All right, so this month's presentation is going to be slightly shorter compared to the other ones. But first up, we'll start with our sports and activities. So basketball has been doing fairly well. They have a game with Fond du Lac on Friday. And they are also having an induction of 2 new members into the North Athletic Hall of Fame on Friday night after the JV game. And then wrestling and girls have a meet against Hortonville tomorrow night. And the North Lourdes Swim has had a meet last night against West, and they ended with victory. And then they are competing in Ashwaubenon in the invite on Saturday. And hockey's also doing fairly well. They got their first victory before Christmas break, so that's really exciting. And then they are playing Fondy Springs. Well, they played Fondy Springs last night, and then they play Kenosha on Friday. And dance is competing Kalkana this Saturday, so help support them. And then they are getting ready for regionals on the 25th at Kimberly. And talking about the 25th, we have Winter Formal, and it is at 8 to 11 p.m. in our field house. The theme this year is Disney, and that is something very different because we usually don't really do a theme like this. usually we go with a theme that connects to like an organization that they're going to donate to, so this is different. And then our tickets are being sold during lunch and during the morning the week of winter formal, and that is right after finals, so that'll be a good mental break for our students. And our musical this year, forgive me, I pronounced this wrong, but it's pronounced Les Miserables, as I looked it up. And and it will be, as it was said, it will be on the second week of February from Thursday through Sunday, the 13th through the 16th. And tickets are available online at thegrandoshkosh.org, or you can go to the Grand Box office. And if you are a student at Oshkosh North High School or Oshkosh West High School, and you are a staff of the Oshkosh Area School District, you can get in for free with your ID, but you would have to go and get a ticket with your ID beforehand. And I already kind of talked to Dr. Herzog about this earlier, but finals are already next week, even though we just got back from holiday break. So that'll definitely be something for us students to keep in mind, and we'll have to be preparing this weekend as well as next week for them. And this is just the schedule of how it'll flow. And on the first day of finals, we do have a one lunch as well. And before we end, I just want to say good luck to all the students for finals, and congratulations to all the seniors who are graduating this semester.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you so much, Cabal. And tonight we have a guest speaker with us for representing West High School. We have Sophie Simons, and she is the vice president of West High School. So Sophie, go ahead.
Thank you. So for athletics at West, like Cabal said, so West beat Oshkosh North last Friday 70-30, the girls basketball. And then for boys basketball, West beat North 79-77, which is really, really close. And then for our dance team, Oshkosh West hosted the Summer in the Snow Dance Team Invite, which was last Saturday. And over 1,000 dancers competed at the competition. West did well in their kick and palm routines, and senior Jessa Nemeth got 11th in her solo. And then for clubs, Wave Robotics had the Infinite Recharge kickoff this past Saturday, January 4th. And DECA had their district competition at Bayport High School on a Saturday 4th as well. And then the Friday right before break, we had the student versus staff basketball game. And the staff won 70-52, so. So we have our musical coming up, the Sister Act. And Tech Week is next week, which is, so the students will be dressing up and rehearsing. And then Wednesday, January 22nd, and Thursday, January 23rd, are school shows for the middle and elementary schools from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then January 23rd through the 25th, there are shows for the public at 7 o'clock. And then on Sunday, the 26th, the show's at 2 o'clock p.m. And you can buy the tickets online at the Grand Oshkosh website, but the show is at Alberta Kimball Auditorium. And then on Friday, January 31st, Student Government is hosting our second blood drive of the year. And I hope you all have a great month. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Nice job.
Thank you.
And at this point in time, we're going to go ahead and transition over into the superintendent's good news report. And we have a lot of wonderful news to share with our community tonight. Roosevelt Elementary School Student Council representatives recently helped raise money for the Salvation Army by ringing bells during the holiday season. We are extremely grateful for the generosity and involvement of our school communities. Washington Elementary School's first Junior Lego League recently competed in an expo at the Oshkosh Truck STEM Bay. Students had a wonderful time explaining their project to the audience and were very proud of their work. They look forward to participating in the league again next year. Ethan Kuhn, a fifth grader at Merrill Elementary School, was recently recognized by Officer Tony Flagg for a heroic good deed. During recess, Ethan's quick thinking helped to keep one of Merrill's young nonverbal students safe. Officer Flagg recognized Ethan with a bag of Oshkosh Police Department goodies during a surprise visit to Ethan's class. Great job, Ethan. Webster Stanley Elementary School recently received a $3,000 grant from the Green Bay Packers Foundation. The school will be using the grant to fund Read Your Heart Out, which is an event centered around cultural relevance and literacy. The school will take part in the event while celebrating National African American Parent Involvement Day, which takes place annually in February. Communities at Oshkosh North students recently studied CNN's top 10 men and women who are making the world a better place. Each group chose a person and their cause to support and then shared their findings in a Shark Tank presentation manner. The winning cause highlighted the efforts of one individual who collected 6 tons of decomposing trash and plastic from a beach in India. Before the holidays, the Oshkosh West School community had a festive and generous visit from Santa and Mrs. Claus, also known as Oshkosh West custodian Steve Abler and his wife Sandy. The duo, along with fellow staff members, greeted students and handed out candy canes while spreading holiday cheer. South Park Middle School recently took part in some friendly competition. The 8th grade boys basketball team challenged the South Park staff in a game of basketball over the lunch hour. Although the students gave it their best, they were not able to overcome the 20-point lead by the staff. Our district is celebrating 13 years of math recovery intervention teaching and 10 years of math recovery professional development. The district was an early adopter, and because of the staff leadership in our district, we have been able to sustain this opportunity to influence mathematics teaching and improve student learning. In fact, our district is frequently invited to present at conferences regionally and nationally. Recently, Julie Holmes, our elementary math coordinator, and Jan Wagner, our instructional support teacher, math teacher, presented at the National Math Recovery Conference in Rhode Island. Our exceptional staff and commitment to excellence while putting students first have put Oshkosh on the map in the math world. Many of our elementary students enjoyed a variety of learning experiences to celebrate the Hour of Code during the month of December. Students used a variety of robots, including Ozobots, Dash, and Spheros, and completed coding challenges. Students gained an understanding of the importance of computer science in careers and enjoyed partnering with peers using communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking skills. 2 Oshkosh Area School District teachers were recently selected by former students for being their most influential teacher. Congratulations to Braden Fredrickson, literacy teacher at Carl Traeger Middle School, and Kelly Schweiner, physical education teacher at Webster Stanley Middle School. The Oshkosh Area School District values the important role of school crossing guards and will be participating in Wisconsin's Adult School Crossing Guards Recognition Week, January 13th through the 17th. No matter if it's raining, snowing, sleeting, or 10 degrees below zero, Oshkosh Adult School Crossing Guards are committed to keeping our students safe. So, next time you walk to school with your child, or drop them off at the crosswalk, or simply see a crossing guard, please take time to thank them for watching out for all of our students. We are pleased to announce that the district will once again be represented in the 2020 State Education Student Artwork Exhibit. This is an outstanding opportunity for students to exhibit their artwork to the administrators, leaders, and fellow school board members of school districts across the state. Student artwork will be on display at the convention later this month, with over 3,000 attendees having the opportunity to view the pieces. Congratulations and great work to the many students that will have their artwork featured. Please remember that there hasn't been much time since our last school board meeting and school days in operation, but on screen, as superintendent, I remain committed to being present and engaged in our schools and throughout the Oshkosh community. On the screen, you'll see just a few examples of where I've been spending my time for 1 week, given a recent winter break. And without further ado, at this point in time, I would like to turn this back over to Dr. Herzog. I know we do have a district administrator supplemental report related to open enrollment. I'm not sure if you would like to have a verbal report on that or not from Dr. Gunlock.
That would be a great idea. I think it's good to keep the public informed and just to remind the board what this is all about. So this report is on open enrollment.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Every year, we're required to have the board approve the space requirements for open enrollment. So each year we do that. And the report that you see in front of you is really divided into 2 sections. One is for regular education, one is for special education, because they obviously have unique program needs and space capacities. The regular education piece is quite simple. It has not changed in several years. We say yes to everybody who wants to open enroll to Oshkosh. We do have some size limitations if sections get too big, however, but we are committed to finding a space in one of our schools throughout the district and have not had any issues saying yes to all the people who have wanted to open enroll into Oshkosh. So in the report are the actual size limits. You'll see they're a little bit smaller than our normal class size because we want to leave some space available for people who actually live in the given attendance areas. So that's it from the regular education side. On the special ed side,
we have class size ratios that we have to look at for students to teachers as well as other adults like paraprofessionals and such in the different programs. So on the document, it lays out how many students to teachers or students to adults ratio is out there for the different types of programming that we have in all of the school. We do have some specialized programs in the district, but those are pretty full for the programs that are listed. So, you know, when we have an open enrollment request for our district, we look at the building that they're requesting at, we look at the size program, if they have an IEP, and then we make a determination of whether or not we can accept them in that program or in that building. And that's how we look at that for special ed.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs.
Thank
Any
you very
questions?
much. Any questions from the board? All right, thank you
Okay.
for that
You're
report.
welcome.
Are there any other committee reports? Now that we've we did have a committee report
I do
since
have a
the board
committee
last
report.
met.
Yes, so the Education Committee met on January 2nd. Sorry, I'm gonna hold this up. Hold it up. We had 2 items that we discussed on the agenda. The first one was the E-Academy. And Lisa Leader is the Alternative Education Online Coordinator for the district, and Lisa also serves on the eSchool Network Board. So our update was kind of a review of how the Academy's been working. In the 2013 and 14 school year, the district piloted the blended learning and provided online summer school electives through E-Academy, and we expanded our E-Academy offerings with our own school district teachers. In the 2014-15 school year, students registered for their classes using Infinite Campus. Staff was added, and we pulled in open enrollment from several districts for students that were part-time in E-Academy, and we also piloted dual credit courses for the Wisconsin Digital Learning Collaborative. We also doubled our summer school enrollment for E-Academy and expanded offerings, so you can see it just continues to grow each year. 2015-16 school year, we increased the statewide network enrollment and the OASD Staff Teaching Academy courses. We included E-Academy in the high school courses and planning guidebook, and there was a link to E-Academy on the district's website. That is also the year that the Learning Without Limits rollout for the Chromebooks took place at the high school level. And then most recent years, 2016 to the spring of 2019, course enrollment increased by 10% over those 3 years. And we also patterned with the Wisconsin eSchool Network to co-found Wisconsin Digital Learning Collaborative. And total, we have some data. 315 students took one or more course, E-Academy courses, in the 2018-19 school year. The second item that we discussed on our agenda was the school calendar. And both of these things will be brought to the board in the coming months too. But so for the school calendar, the key points for the next school year is August, there was a change to increase teacher time in the 5 days before school starts. It will allow for time in the classroom and the day before the convocation occurs on the 25th of August. September 1st is the first day of school. Graduation for North High School is May 31st, and graduation for West High School is June 2nd. We talked about how there was a survey given to the community, and they preferred to not have back-to-back graduations, and they had preferred to hold it in the evening after work. The bulk of the other thing that we talked about was the spring break dates, which for next year are March 29th through April 2nd. That is a change from the past couple years. The past 2 years it has coincided with the break for UW Oshkosh, which was a request made by the university. The reason we're not able to do that this coming year is because the ACT makeup date happens to fall under UW Oshkosh's spring break, so we would lose the opportunity to do the ACT makeup date. We kind of came up with a plan of action for that because that was the bulk of our discussion. Dr. Cartwright already spoke with Chancellor Leavitt about that, and Ms. Julie Conrad was also going to reach out to the state because they've been pushing that ACT makeup date further back into the year each year. So those were kind of our follow-up items to that discussion. But like I said, both these things will be on school board packets in the future. Our next meeting is Thursday, February 6th at 8:30 a.m. Everything I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Szilagyi. Are there any other board committee reports at this time? Mr. Evans.
I have one going back to last year. The Energy Committee meeting met on December 16th. And our first item on the agenda was the Energy Club updates at West High School, which calls themselves the Green Team. There's 15 members that are in that club, and they meet twice a month, kind of like what we do, one for planning, and then the second meeting is for action. The team is working on a trash versus recycling program. They're also collaborating with UW Oshkosh, excuse me, on energy-related activities and sustainability topics. The other item that we talked about was the facilities update, and we just got an update on our facilities, mainly about the glass project at West. Update on re-educating energy conservation in buildings because people kind of fall back into old habits. There's a memo sent out to remind staff to keep doors closed, not to use space heaters because that just works against the heating system. Next topic of discussion will be the use of coffee makers and microwaves because they are kind of proliferating across the schools. And we're trying to get them to only be in break rooms. It's similar to what we did with the printers where we removed multiple printers and just have one common area for printing use. We were updated on the committee on the success of Carl Traeger's Elementary School Green Team's silverware project. They're using real silverware, and they had a 99% return rate, and they only lost 3 spoons. Now, my trash enclosures at my business is located by restaurants, and every week I go out there and there are silverware laying in the dumpsters and on the concrete. So our students are doing better than what our professionals are doing at our restaurants downtown. Our next meeting is scheduled on April 27th because that committee meets quarterly.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Are there any other reports from board members? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item then, which is the non-agenda related public forum. No one signed up for that. The item on the agenda after that is the agenda related public forum. Similarly, no one signed up to speak tonight on that topic. And so we will move on to workshops. Our first workshop tonight is the summer school report and program plan approval with Ms. Conrad, Mrs. Bailey, and Mr. Dunn.
So So, good evening. Just like as we did last year, I have joining me our 4K through 5 summer school principal, or 4K through 8, excuse me, summer school principal, Doris Bailey. Dan Dunn is our high school, and Junko Jacobs acts as our extended school year coordinator for summer school, which would incorporate special education students. And so getting started here, we are going to be doing a review of last year's summer school and a preview, just like we did last year. So we had 4,411 total course enrollments. That is 430 more course enrollments than we had last year. That was one of our goals, was to be up in enrollment. We had 2,428 students enrolled. That is 83 more students than we had enrolled last year. And so those were two of our major goals, was to increase those, and we did both of those. You can see we continue to offer ESOL and newcomer courses. And the big thing that we're very proud of is that 97% of our summer school staff were Oshkosh Area School District employees, and that was something the board that had committed to 3 years ago, and I'll talk more about that in our tier pay system, was that we really wanted our employees, and we've gone from 77 up to 97% into summer schools. So I'm going to turn it over to Doris for this next part.
Okay, so we have some tables. We're not going to go through them in detail, but we like to keep track of the classes that we offer and the enrollment in each, so we can see if enrollment is going up or down. So what we're seeing in this one is the totals from 2018 to 2019. Some of the courses seem to be going down in enrollment, but that's because of a switch in the structure that we've offered the math and the literacy courses. So there's different groupings of students in different classes now. So overall, we have increased enrollment, and all of the other courses have a huge increase over last year. So those are the special courses like Crafty Kids and art classes and cooking classes, those kind of things. And this is similarly structured, so it's just showing us which classes have pretty consistent enrollment overall for the 6th through 12th grade, but again, all of the other courses have seen a significant increase in enrollment.
So I'm going to turn it over to Dan for high school.
Yeah. One of the couple of different areas is when we have our enrichment courses, which includes some 4-credit courses, but it's also some non-credit camps as well. Which the numbers were up a little bit, but the one focus is with regard to our credit recovery area. That's the opportunity for students who have failed courses during the school year to come in and pick up those credits, and we have increased those numbers, and that was one of the goals as well. The last 3 years, the total number of credits that have been earned and attempted has remained relatively stable. Again, we did have some more enrollment. Not everybody completed those courses, and so the number of credits completed did not increase significantly, but that will be one of the focuses for this summer, is to do that.
So what is the financial impact of summer school? You can see up here we have 5 years worth of data on where the financial impact has been of summer school. In your board or staff report, there was 3 years included in there. But the key thing to think about here is that summer school is tricky when you look at the financial impact because it goes over 2 fiscal years. So when we start to look at 2018-2019, we predicted numbers for you last year that actually are lower. We were predicting approximately $800 in the positive last year, where we actually ended up, because we now have the data for the second half of summer school. We have the 2019 portion, or the 2019 portion of it. We actually ended up in the positive $122,135. And so when we're looking at 1920, you notice that it says budget because we only truly know the expenditures or the amount for the first half. and then we're looking at a projected budget. We're looking at what our revenues are, and we need to keep in mind that when you're looking at your revenues, this is the revenue. It's like, how can we impact your formula, your tax formula? It comes in as program aid, and it does not come in as this is money that we can expend. But it helps us overall as a school district because it adds to our student counts when it comes to our first Friday or third Friday in September and our January counts as well. So summer school actually helps us. So currently our predicted would be a positive 86,000 approximately. I'm projecting that it's going to be more than that based on how we have been going with increase in enrollments and controlling our staffing numbers. That was one of the key things that we were doing for this summer and why we saw the positive results.
So I did a little survey of the parents who had students enrolled in K through 8 last summer, right immediately after summer school was over. And these are just some of the things that we saw as a result of that survey. And we wanted to know how the online registration process was seen by the parents, and overall they think it's efficient and easy to use. Did your student ride a bus? 12% said yes, and of those, all of them said, I wanted to know if our bus stops were appropriate for the students who ride bus, and they were. Nobody said that they needed a different stop. I'm satisfied that my students' instructional needs were met, in the 90%. The appropriately challenged area, I have some ideas on how we can increase that a little bit. I do know who did not agree or strongly agree and why, so we have some things to look at there. I believe my student enjoyed his or her summer school experiences, a very good number there. So, and then this top one there, if an option was provided, we were trying to save money on paper. We mail home currently. In the past, we've mailed home registration information, and I wanted to know, could we go electronic with that? And we're still trying to figure out how we can target the few people that do want the mail and not mail everybody home a registration confirmation. So we're working on that one. But overwhelmingly, most people said yes, we can just do an electronic one. And out of 116 K through 8 staff members that responded, 111 would love to be back for summer school next year, and the ones that said no had prior commitments. So it wasn't they didn't like it or they didn't want to, it was other things. And overall, we received many positive comments, and the few suggestions I've read and I've taken into consideration and we're looking at. And some planned changes. There are very few changes for this year. We've just looked at some new course proposals. We're going to try to offer a couple new classes for K through 8. Registration confirmations, as I said, we're going to try to send most of them electronically, but we need to find out a way to get the request for paper in the system. And this year there's no overlap with EAA, so that should help us significantly with our high school. These are our projected or our proposed dates that hopefully will get approved. And 16 days, no Fridays as usual for K through 8, and those are the 4 weeks up there. July 4th does not impact us this year, so that's good news.
And for the high school, we've got the 2 3-week sessions starting June 8th and ending on July 17th, which is actually about a week earlier than last year. We were able to get started a little earlier this year, so that's why there's no overlap with the EAA. School locations are going to be the same for elementary, Jefferson, Oakland, and Traeger, and the middle and high school summer schools will take place at North. The Race and Dash, those are the programs at North and West for students who failed a class during the school year by a small margin. I'm not sure which number of years that this has been in place, but it was pretty successful this past summer. I think of the 39 kids they signed up, I think 38 completed their credits and got to passing for that class. So it's been a pretty good program. We want to make sure this year that we are communicating with the teachers during the school year to make sure that they aren't not getting a kid signed up for that because we want to give every student an opportunity that did fail, maybe not by a large margin, that they've got that opportunity to come in for this program. It takes place during the first 2 weeks of summer school, and that's all they've got. So it's 2 weeks. They have 2 weeks. It's not something they can drag out for the entire summer. The classroom teachers provide the requirements that the students need to complete in order to get to a passing grade for that course. And then we have teachers on staff for the Race Dash program in the summertime to help the students complete those tasks. And our learning lab, that's our students who will be taking courses online to gain the credits that they missed out during the school year. We had pretty good successful numbers this year, and we do have content instructors at the school throughout the summer to help the students get through those courses. Basically the same courses that we've offered in the past. Some of them have not run in the past. Again, it's a matter of encouraging the teachers to talk to students during the school year to get them signed up. Because if we just open it up for enrollment and we end up oftentimes with some of the courses, not enough kids signing up that we can run the courses. We look for about 15 students in order to hire the teacher and run the course in the summertime.
These are our proposed E-Academy courses, and so these are the ones that we are going to offer students through E-Academy during the summer.
And the K through 8 courses proposed are fairly similar to last year. We are going to try to add a few, like I said, but it depends on enrollment if they run or not. And those will be in the information that goes out to parents soon. And the athletic camps. We have athletic camps at both West High School and North High School during the summer, and coaches are encouraging students to use their summer to come and get stronger and faster. And we also have music camps, and those dates are proposed up there. Orchestra lessons happen during the normal 4-week summer school program for K through 8, and those happen at North High School. Choir camp is there, orchestra jumpstart camp, and those locations are to be determined, but more information will be in the packet for some parents.
Summer school driver's ed has been in place for quite some time, not much for changing. It's a successful program. It's busy in the summertime. They've got 4 behind-the-wheel instructors going all day. It's a good, successful program.
It's where I learned how to drive.
And then for staffing, very similar to last year, like I said, we will have content teachers for both the Race Dash program for the first 2 weeks of summer school, and then we have content teachers for the entire summer for the credit recovery kids. The nice thing, we're all located right there in that same area, so the teachers are available for any of the kids that are there, and it's a good benefit for the students to be able to have, especially in the math and literacy areas, to have those content teachers there to help them out.
Okay. And same with K through 8 staffing, it's all based on enrollment. So these are proposed based on prior years, but we balance that once we get classes full and can run them. Not too many changes there.
So as a reminder here, this is our 3-tier model when it comes to summer school pay, and once again, this has really, the pay has paid off when it comes to retaining our staff members. And if you recall, that actually was part of our strategic plan 2.0 in the goal under valuing our Oshkosh area school district educators. So thank you for that. That has really worked. So we have the majority of our staff are operating underneath Tier 2 or Tier 3. We're predicting we have some of our educators are now moving into the 6 years plus with us for summer school, so we're making sure that we're budgeting for that, and we look at that because we're going to have some of our summer school staff move up to that Tier 3, which is $35 an hour. So So timelines. Oh, I'm the timeline. So here we go. We've already started our communication with teachers who's interested in teaching enrichment and or elective courses. We've just reviewed what we have in so far as new course proposals, and that would be in K-8. Course proposals for high school have to go through the board approval process, and that already happened in October. February 14th, we'll be sending out communication to teaching staff. The week of February 17th, that's when information is going to go home. And actually, I've had several questions already about when's the information coming. So you can see that coming to an Infinite Campus email parent portal near you on February 17th. And so here's also the big one that I've been asked. When is online registration open for summer school? It opens March 2nd, and it'll be open March 2nd through March 20th. However, athletic and music camps will be opened right up until almost the end of school to register for. Also, if you are a family that doesn't have an electronic device or computer available to you, we will have them available at all of our buildings during upcoming parent-teacher conferences so we can get you registered for summer school. Even though, let's say the deadline has passed, March 20th, principals and or pupil services staff, we can get kids registered anytime with assistance. We can do that. We're going to do notification of teaching assignments at the end of April after the board approves our staffing plan. If you are a non-OASD family, in other words, you live in our boundaries and would like to attend summer school, we invite you to do that. And just contact us, and we will get you enrollment cards to be able to submit that to the summer school secretary and get you enrolled. Once again, we'll be doing everything online. We will, like Doris said, we'll do course confirmations electronically. And then we already have the week of May 11th, we will have our annual all summer school staff meeting where we get everything set up. And for our K-8 students and families, we'll have an open house, will tentatively be June 10th. And that gives you the review and the preview for summer school.
What day of the week is June 10th?
June 10th is Wednesday.
Okay.
It's been the Wednesday before our K through 8 starts,
Okay.
traditionally.
Thank you. Are there other board questions?
I have one question. For driver's ed, it costs $210.
Yep.
Do we have funding available for students that might not be able to afford that?
So, driver's education is not a course, it's not a graduation requirement, it's
Okay.
not a requirement anywhere within the Oshkosh Area School District. Driver's education during the regular school year and summer school is a self-funded
Okay.
department, and so any of the behind the wheel costs and the actual classroom costs covers the cost of the teacher and the behind the wheel instructors. So it's that is the cost. I do know that there is a way to get some assistance, and there's other routes that we have within the community to help students obtain their driver's education piece. So, for example, you can reach out to the Boys and Girls Club. They have a program that helps students obtain their driver's license as well. So, but that is the reason for the fee, because it is a self-sustaining,
Got it, yeah.
self-funding
Makes
program.
sense. Thank you.
Mhm.
I know there's been a real effort over time to keep those costs down, to
Yes.
make it as affordable as possible.
Mhm.
But because it needs to be self-sustaining, there is a fee involved. I also was intrigued with the payment schedule, having overseen summer school in a previous life, where for each teacher was paid their hourly rate in the district, and that was determined by dividing using the fraction 1 over 1,330, which must have been the number of teaching hours at that time. So it was a very complicated system. Then when we went with the consortium in the Fox Valley, that rolled it back, and we lost a lot of district teachers. I see a great value in having Oshkosh Area School District teachers
Yes.
be involved in teaching our students because of the excellent professional development they have and their familiarity with the curriculum. So I really am intrigued with and support this compensation schedule for
Mhm.
staff members.
Yeah. I can just say that we had, I would say last summer was one of the best summers that we've had, and that's due to our leadership from Junko, Doris, and Dan, as well as having our staff members and our lead teachers are just fantastic. Our educators that they want to be there. It's fun. We have really emphasized, as Doris had said, we have really emphasized looking at more academic enrichment versus come have remedial courses in summer. It's
Right.
like, what can we do to build up your skills, but have fun at the same time while we're doing it? So we're really looking for that engagement during the summer.
I do have one other question. Do we provide busing in summer?
For K through 5, for
Okay.
the elementary sites only, so not the middle school or the high school. So Jefferson, Oaklawn, and Traeger all have several sites that they don't pick up door to door, they pick up at specific locations, which will be in the programs.
And do all those summer school sites also provide lunch
Yes.
and/or
Yes.
breakfast?
Yes, Traeger traditionally has not free and reduced, so they do provide a lunch, but it's purchased. We have to check that every year. It's based on the numbers. So the other 2 elementary sites have free breakfast and lunch, and typically, we will have to verify this. And North will also have
Breakfast and lunch.
Other questions or comments on summer session? Well, the temperature outside today, I don't think made 20 degrees, which makes it a very appropriate time to talk about summer school. We do this every January, so.
All right.
Thank you for your excellent
So
report.
at your next meeting, you will see a resolution to approve the program plan for the summer 2020.
Thank you very much.
so much. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to our second workshop then, the Facility Advisory Committee recommendations with Mr. Fox, Dr. Gundlach, and Mrs. Schnorr, and others. Mr. Selly from Freight Architects.
That's right.
There's the guy. Getting this cold air on me.
We ready? Okay. We are here to sort of do the final report on the facility advisory work. Just a reminder that the actual executive summary is on our facility advisory website. This is all the details that are encompassed in all this, but we thought it might be wise to kind of distill it down into a recap of the recommendations. The Facility Advisory Committee did some awesome work over the past several months, and they came up with 4 core recommendations. The first recommendation was commit to long-term consolidation efforts as a school system. The concept of going from 20 facilities currently down to 14 facilities. Adopt the long-term consolidation pathway, which would look at, over time, which facilities would get changed, replaced, modernized, et cetera. The third recommendation that we'll focus on a little bit this evening is pursuing an April 2020 capital referendum. The fourth recommendation was to engage the community further in a proposed Phase 1 middle school and elementary school project. If you'll remember, Phase 1 was broken out into 4 component parts. One was infrastructure, number 2 was safety and security, and those are the pieces we're going to talk about tonight. Part 3 and 4 were really the replacement of Merrill Middle and Webster Elementary. And as you recall, the survey that was taken by over 5,000 community members, in a sense said we have strong support currently for parts 1 and 2, and parts 3 and 4 they would really like more information on. There was support, but not enough necessarily for us to proceed. At least that was the recommendation at the time. There's some additional recommendations there. Use the key criteria that we had laid out for school site adequacy in case we ever have to make a decision of which sites do we leverage and which sites do we not. Provide taxpayer impact charts in informational materials, which of course we will do. And the third one, which is one of my personal favorites, include playground equipment within the project scope. In other words, if we are going to replace a new elementary school, include the costs of putting in an appropriate playground so kids have appropriate spaces. So that's where we're at. So that's the FAC recommendations in a nutshell. What we're going to focus on this evening is pursuing an April 2020 capital referendum. And this is broken down into two component parts. One is safety and security updates, and the other one is immediate building infrastructure and maintenance. And if you'll remember, if you took the survey, these dollar amounts came to approximately $21 million when you combine those two together. What the Facility Advisory Committee said after they looked at the survey results was, and I'm paraphrasing, is we should probably, given that there's such strong support for parts 1 and 2, and we have to provide some more information for 3 and 4, perhaps we ought to look at adding into a few of the next level infrastructure and maintenance projects. And that included the security pieces as well. And we've been able to do some work along those lines, and this is a summary of what the potential referendum project costs would be. So, and we can of course speak to any one of these, but it's broken down into infrastructure and security. The majority of the infrastructure dollars, approximately $9.25 million, would be electrical upgrades at West and North, as well as electrical upgrades at Alberta Kimball Auditorium. Carl Traeger boilers and piping. I know we sometimes think that Carl Traeger is our new school. It is not. It is how old?
It is 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years old already, which is not old, but it's also not new. So that's part of that project. Fire alarm systems at multiple facilities, generator replacements at multiple facilities, and Alberta Kimball rigging. Security projects would be the primary one of those, about $9.34 million for office relocation and or entrance remodel. The nice thing is we were able to, in most of the cases, swap spaces inside the building. So you would remodel some spaces near the entrance, and then you would swap those spaces, which what are currently office areas that are on the more interior sections of any of the given buildings. Security camera replacements, this one requires a little explanation. If you remember, in 2016, we went to referendum for $600,000 for security cameras. That was only enough to cover phase 1, and that dollar was determined because that's what was left of what we needed for operations. We were able to take the school safety grants, add on to that, and put in our current security camera system, which has been leveraged a lot. It's very effective and has been used well. But those cameras had a projected lifespan of about 4 to 5 years. So, and there is no budget that we had laid out from the beginning till now to actually replace those units. So given that they're such an important piece of our safety infrastructure, we felt it was important to replace them. And we would not do that immediately. We would do it more at the tail end of any potential successful referendum. We do it after we use the lifespan of the existing cameras that were in place. The last one is called Building Communication Modernization. The core of that would be replacing our PA systems, which are currently analog PA systems, with what we call IP-based PA systems. They'd be very similar to the digital phones that we have in every one of the classrooms. The advantage of this is once it is something that has an IP address, it's a network appliance, and we can deliver a lot of information through that. Not only does it give us enhanced reliability of the system, which is really important, especially in light of events that had happened at West, but it also allows us to project communications into different venues. So the board you see here in the boardroom, if there was a crisis somewhere in the district and we needed to communicate, the message would display right across the board, no matter what we were doing at the time in the classroom. So if people aren't necessarily hearing something because of whatever the sound level is in the given area, they would still have visual cues. You can't really do that with an analog system. It really does require us to have an IP-based system. So the projected cost of replacing that throughout the district would be approximately $2.6 million. The total cost of the project would be approximately $24,515,000, which is what we would recommend going to referendum for. We can obviously come back and answer any questions about the specifics that you may have. This is the example board resolution. I'm always reluctant to read a PowerPoint slide to anyone, but in this case I'll do it. I'm starting to sound like you guys now. Be it resolved by the School Board of the Oshkosh Area School District, Winnebago County, Wisconsin, that there shall be issued pursuant to Chapter 67 of the Wisconsin statutes, general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $24,515,000 for the public purpose of paying the cost of a district-wide school facilities improvement project consisting of safety and security improvements, including office relocation and/or entrance remodeling, building communication upgrades and security cameras, building infrastructure improvements, including electrical, HVAC, generator, and fire alarm system upgrades, and auditorium rigging, and the acquisition of related furnishing, fixtures, and equipment. It's quite a mouthful.
This would also be the question that's on the ballot.
Right. And I'll let Sue talk to this one.
Obviously, this is just an estimate. You can structure debt any number of ways, but if you structure it how you normally would structure borrowing or debt, the impact is about 19 cents. Our current mill rate is $9.22, so that would be about a 2% increase, and it'd be like $19 on a $100,000 home.
And that's per year, correct?
Correct. Per year.
Thank you.
That's the average impact. 20 years. It'd be a 20-year impact. That's the average impact over the 20 years. You know, they can structure the debt any way that we as a district want to have it structured. This is assuming an average payment over the whole 20 years. If you wanted to beef that up so you have more upfront, if possibly we're going to look at other phases where we may borrow money, and want to structure more of it up front, we can, so that the debt drops off faster. You know, understand kind of what I'm saying? But this is if you structure it evenly over the 20 years of the bonds.
So at this point, we would open it up to, obviously, this is not the first time we've discussed this, so we would bring this forward to you for any questions that you might have of us. And I'm guessing they might be related to this slide here.
The security cameras, people are going to ask.
Right.
You know, this
Right.
is a one-time fix of a problem that will be reoccurring over time, so.
And actually, that's a really good question, because when we put in the initial batch of security cameras in 2016, they will be roughly 6 years old in 2022, and roughly 6 years after that, we're going to have the ability to replace them yet again. I think running them for 5 to 6 years, if you talk to anyone in the industry, that's pretty much, they're going to start failing at that point in time. That's just the lifespan of what those units are. And when you look at some of the usage, especially of our exterior cameras, they're out in the elements all the time. And so, yeah, that's...
So is there a plan?
Well, what my recommendation would be to build this into an operational budget going forward, and just like we do with the rest of our technology infrastructure, obviously we have some operational referenda that are out there that will come due down the road. As we look at those different opportunities, is there a way for us to build it into projects that are part of our operational referendum? We probably wouldn't do them all in one shot then. We'd spread them out and do them in chunks to spread out the load a little bit. But that's what I would recommend going forward. This would get us healthy through about 2027, 2028.
Okay. Thank you.
How many schools would be involved in obtaining the security camera replacements?
That would be all the schools that we currently have in existence. The other thing that I think it's important in these projects that people will often ask is if Part 3 and 4 are replacing Merrill Middle School and Webster Elementary, how much of this goes there? And the answer to that is little as is possible. And even the security camera piece and the PA system building communications piece, those projects would be done last. And they would be done after we would potentially have an opportunity to look at coming back for replacing those two facilities. That way, there would be no reason to do those projects right away. We'll focus on the facilities that we know are going to remain largely unchanged.
Mr. Peschel.
Sure. The office relocation and entrance remodel, how many schools are we looking at related to that?
Virtually all of them get touched except for two. Oaklawn and Roosevelt have kind of the locations of the offices and configurations that is the desired location. The remainder of the schools will be touched in some form or fashion. 3 of the schools will get additions, and 11 of the schools will, as stated, kind of have the reshuffling of spaces within the existing boundary without a addition. And then I believe it is then just 2 others. We're just going to deal with it with some additional technology, or maybe just simply adding some doors. It's a much simpler fix. So in short, all of them are touched except for 2.
Okay.
Which schools would be touched by the building communication modernization, i.e. the PA systems?
That would be all the buildings. We'd be replacing, because right now we currently have analog systems in all our buildings. And that would happen over a span of 2 years as well. So we wouldn't wholesale do that in one shot. We'd push off those buildings that potentially might get replaced more towards the end, and we would amp up and change out those facilities as we got rid of the analog systems. But that would be in every building, and it would be a unified system.
So one of our newest buildings would be Oaklawn. So you're saying that one also has an analog system, even though that opened in 2013?
I believe it does, yes.
Okay, and I believe when Jefferson was built, it was different from the other schools in that it had voice over IP, but that one would also be replaced then?
That was just for the telephone system. That wasn't for the PA system.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Mrs. Olmsted?
So when we originally sent this out, it was 21 million. That was what it was communicated for the survey.
Mhm.
So what are the additions on here? The generators and the communication system, is that what jumps it up to 3 million extra?
I would say
And the
that
security cameras.
Security cameras, the building communication system, those are the biggest, that's the biggest addition.
And were those recommendations because of recent things that happened, just if we're gonna, because of the recent
Right.
safety issues that we've had, or the recent, things that we'd happened at West, because those are things that are all security, the security system.
Not so
Besides,
much-
well, the generators are too, because if they shut
Right.
down, then you've got all your schools shut down, because we're looking at Merrill, right, the generator at.
No, this one
Which
wouldn't
one?
be, these are, Jim, why don't you explain the generator replacements, and then I can answer the second part of the
Right,
question.
thank you, yes, thanks.
Okay, the generator replacements are currently, well, they would be replacing generators that have failed or are failing right now.
Okay.
And those particular generators operate life safety equipment, i.e. lights, those types
Right.
of functioning systems in the event of a loss of power.
The Merrill generator is still working just fine, just
Okay.
as is the one outside this building. So
And
the
these
core
are
network
hubs.
infrastructure
Okay.
would still be functional.
Okay.
The other part of your question was the addition of security cameras and building communication modernization. Those were added as a result, but really the security camera replacement was not necessarily in response to the situation that occurred.
Yeah, we had been talking about that
Yeah,
before.
that we had been
Right,
talking
yeah.
about that we just, we know that's gonna come end of life, and we didn't have a budget set aside for that. But the building communication modernization, that was in direct result of, we realized how critically important a functioning and broad-reaching, not only PA system, but a system that can communicate beyond the PA system
Right.
is in the event of a crisis.
So the security camera replacements,
Mhm.
what phase, because when we did that, we did it on phases. We did 1, 2, 3, right? There was
Yep.
3 phases of
Yep.
cameras, and we got to phase 2.
Well, we called them
Or-
priorities. And the reason we
sorry.
did at the time is we only had so much money
Right.
that we could actually allocate to it. And we had about $1.3 million of requests. So we had to go back through each of the placement requests and say, okay, which ones are the
Remember,
absolute
yeah.
top priority? And that used up all the money. And we were able to use some cost savings we got in our IT area to put a few more in at our high schools. Okay, so that kind of got our high schools to their priority twos, but the rest of the district didn't. Then the school safety grant came in, and that really is what was responsible for getting us, as an organization, all of those replaced. This would replace all the cameras involved in the first part as well as the second part.
Okay. If we were to go into budget and put security cameras in our budget for 27
Mhm.
and so forth, could we, obviously, this is just a little snippet of the budget. could we ask those, or have we gone and surveyed those schools again about that the cameras are in the right places? That, do we need priority 3 cameras, or do we really stick with priority 1 and 2 and then replace those?
Yeah,
Is that kind of where they've been?
We've gone through that with them.
Already,
Any new
okay.
requests we've vetted, and I think we have an appropriate fleet
Where
of
they are,
cameras in
okay.
place, and it seems to be working well.
Okay.
If there are changes, adding if all of a sudden we have a situation where, this particular spot is not covered well, we need to add one, that's a very minor expense.
Okay.
But
Well,
for the most part, we're pretty well built out.
I'm just saying with moving all these offices,
Yep.
we have to move cameras then too, so that's all
Mhm.
been in that process, and this would help with that too.
Well, they'll
Okay.
be moved with this.
With this, okay.
The other thing to be mindful of is, as we go through the consolidation, potentially, these numbers could go down. Because while you may have a larger facility, some of our facilities are designed where you gotta have a lot of cameras to cover it. For example, West High School. There's lots of hallways there.
Flat and long.
Yeah, flat and long. More modern facilities, probably you could get by with fewer cameras because just the way things are laid out.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so there's a potential for that to, in the future, go down as we consolidate sites.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments? Could you speak to the electrical
Yeah.
item up there, please?
Would love to.
Thank you.
This was actually brought to my attention by WPS about 3 years ago. And through their standard practices, through their portfolio of clients, approximately every 40 to 50 years, they want to replace all the underground wiring. And they did not want to move forward with our schools because we operate high voltage, which is very rare. The only 2 schools in our district that operate high voltage right now are North and West, and one is operating at about 15,000 volts, and the other one at about 5, which is well above where we should be at a low voltage operation, which is usually between 208 and 480. So they would like to see us step back to that service. They'd like to take ownership of the transformers and move them outside of the building, and that's not the case with our 50 and 60-year-old buildings currently. They're deeply embedded well within the infrastructure of the building. So when you start to look at the whole process of what we're trying to achieve is really working with WPS and having them replace their part of the electrical system, having them take ownership of the transformers, pulling them out of the schools where they can be replaced, and then they own the risk at that point. But then from our end, we need to replace everything inside to be able to operate at that lower voltage, which requires much larger cabling and different types of equipment, and all of that gets pushed out to ultimately the breaker panels like you would have in your home. So if you can imagine, all the wires and all the different devices that would be required to update throughout this entire process to modernize it to meet, 2020 standards instead of 1960s and 70s. That's really what we're looking at through this process.
Thank you. Could you also explain the Alberta Kimball rigging, please?
Right. So Alberta Kimball is a process that we've been involved in within facilities for the last year or so. I've been working with Al on twofold. One is the rigging and one is the electrical. The electrical is closely tied to what I had just described with regard to the upgrades at North, with the additional caveat that the Kimball operates, theatrical electricity, which is a little bit different than what we're using in a classroom and in this particular space for lighting. So it's a lot of plugs, it's a lot of different types of wiring, it's a lot of production, the ability to dim lights, and it's a lot of technology stuff that needs to be invested back into that Kimball auditorium to get it away from the old mechanical dimmers, the old mechanical systems, maybe replace some of the wiring that's bad, some of the things that have been placed in the wrong areas that don't allow some of our fire curtains and safety features to operate properly. So that's a lot of the Kimball electrical. The rigging is the same age. So the rigging is, when you look at the side of the Kimball auditorium, you're going to see a lot of ropes. And everything that's on stage for the Kimball is hanging from a rope, essentially. All of your light, every light, every curtain, everything that they'd want to, quote, fly on that fly space is hanging from a rope. So what should have occurred over the last decades is those ropes should have been inspected, pieces should have been replaced, and so on and so forth. So at this point in time, we're catching up. We did an audit through Mainstage, certified rigging inspector. They came through, identified all the problematic areas, everything that had to be replaced, And we've documented that that money is to repair, replace, to put everything back in proper order so that that rigging is certified so that we can safely fly everything on that stage through all of our different productions.
So, if I understand you correctly, we will still have ropes on stage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Everything will be really in the exact same location that it is. It's going to be a one-for-one replacement. It'll just be modernized with different types of ropes, different types of connectors, different types of poles, if you will, that all the lights hang off of that are more rigid. Really, if you didn't take close inventory of everything necessary, you might not notice that anything was done at all. But essentially, everything gets replaced.
So the rigging then is essentially behind the stage or above the stage?
Yes, it starts on the side of the stage, and there's thousands of pounds of weight stack that they stack on top of the cables, and those stacks really closely offset the weight of that's hanging on the other end of that rope, so that a single person can lift, raise or lower a particular device, whatever they happen to be flying at that time. So next time you're in a Kimball, if you look off to the right-hand side, you'll see, I think there's something like 28 different ropes from the front of the stage all the way to the back. They're all attached to something, and then there's a lot of weight stacks depending on what happens to be loaded up at that time.
So this would not address, I don't know what to call it, that section of the Alberta Kimball when you're sitting in the seats and you look up and you see these panels and these lights and
Right.
a catwalk.
This, between the electrical and the rigging, mainly the electrical, will no longer require anybody to be on that catwalk. The catwalk is a safety issue in my mind and in the minds of others. So by rerunning all the electrical and changing all the connectors where all the wires are hung, just this last year, working with Al Winnig, we purchased a special lift for the auditorium so people can utilize our current lifts and gain access to everything from the ground. There would be no reason for anybody to be on a catwalk ever. All the wiring will be new, it'll be run to the proper location with the proper plugs. So that was really the intent, what started this process approximately about a year ago, and Sue found a way to help fund Al within the auditorium. And the whole purpose was to really help eliminate some of the safety issues that we're having within the Kimball, both from a rigging standpoint and electrical standpoint. And ultimately, there's going to be a technology investment within the Kimball to create a more of a learning environment during the day, and then of course a theater environment at night.
Thank you. I know I've asked a lot of questions here and I didn't mean to dominate, so I'm sure others of you have questions. Mr. Peschel?
Sure. I want to thank both Dr. Herzog and Mr. Fox for giving that much detailed description of a stage. Seriously, I enjoyed it because I think a lot of people don't understand a lot of the backstage workings of that, and you described some of the most integral parts that people observe from the outside is how do you control the curtains and how do you control scenes and all this stuff. And so thank you for allowing that opportunity.
And it's used
Yeah.
by everyone.
My question is around the electrical upgrades. Do those, in essence, I'd like to know if we do those electrical upgrades, do they save the district money by doing that?
They will not save you money in terms of something you will see on your energy bill.
Okay.
For example, if we replace windows in a facility or
Sure.
HVAC, you'll see us consume less energy. They will save you money in the sense that you've got 60-year-old systems. In the event that we lose an internal transformer within one of those schools, operating at that particular voltage, you're not getting a replacement.
Sure.
That building is down, so you're going to have to pay for a semi to come in. You're going to have to pay for a lot of extra gear, and they're going to have to run all kinds of cables, and then ultimately you're going to do what we're offering to do here today, is to really modernize the infrastructure, the wiring infrastructure of that building to reflect what would be put into a building today.
Sure.
Allegedly.
So maybe put another way too, you talked about taking those transformers or those hubs of energy out of the buildings
Mhm.
and putting that onto WPS. That's essentially reducing liability for the district in regards to having to handle that, correct?
Absolutely, that's part of the solution. I think that's key. I mean, the other pieces are, go without saying that we have to replace the infrastructure to be able to operate with those transformers, but WPS has these transformers in
Sure.
stock. So if we lose a transformer for whatever reason, electrical storm or just goes, they can mobilize, they can get a transformer within 24 hours, and it's on their dime, on their time, to be able to put that transformer back in place and get us live.
Sure. To me, that's a level of efficiency that I think our taxpayers expect us to be able to respond to and to be able to maintain, the education of our children through that. So to me, that makes some sense there, so. I'm trying to think if I had any other. Now, my other question, is that the only, are we only focusing on north and west related to those electrical upgrades, or are there other schools that we're gonna look at down the line that we wanna do that to as well?
These are the only two schools that are currently operating high voltage.
Okay.
Again, which is an uncommon voltage.
Yep.
So if we did happen to update an electrical system down the road, it would be like-for-like replacement rather than
Okay.
something more elaborate.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Ka or Sophie, might you have any questions or comments? Don't want to put you on the spot, but I always like to hear from our students. Any other board member with a question or comment? Excuse me. I believe this is at least the third workshop we've had
I
on
think
this
so.
topic.
Mhm. Not to mention the exciting updates. There were
This
like
is
4 of
true.
them.
Yeah, there were 6 meetings, so.
Yeah, that's right.
So we have spent a good amount of time on this. I don't feel like we're rushing to a decision here. I think that with the number of workshops we've had and the number of updates we've had, but primarily by Dr. Gundlach from each of the facilities advisory committee meetings, the fact that you can find detailed information on our website, and you can actually go back and review all the meetings that was held by that group. I don't think we've rushed this process. I think we've done a good job of looking to provide information not only to the board but to the public. And I do think we're in a position to make a decision on whether or not this board wants to go forward then with a referendum in April 2020. We've often said that student safety and student learning are our 2 primary goals, and we put students first. To me, that's what this infrastructure piece and what the security piece are about. So if we're true to our mission and vision and true to our mantra of students first, this makes sense to me, to move forward and give the taxpayers an opportunity to let the board know what direction they want us to take. Other questions or comments? Mr. Bishop?
Maybe one comment or maybe
Sure.
some type of direction. And it comes back to the question, can we put the question
Sure.
back up there?
You bet.
So I don't necessarily have a concern with the question at this point, partially because we're not taking a vote on this tonight either, so. But I guess my comments revolve around making sure that this discussion that we're having here around this question is communicated amply to the community. So if we could have some, like single actions where we say this is the proposed referendum question that the school board will be discussing at, what is that, the 16th? Of, maybe, one push a week in between now and then or next week. I think it would just be between now and next week, just so that the community knows that we're discussing this question and this referendum taking place. I know that the community knows, but they don't necessarily know what that question is until maybe if they come to a meeting or if they are able to go read the packet. But I'm suggesting to take it right out of that and do a Facebook post about it from the district, just to communicate that a little bit more to the community. So Is that something that we can figure out?
That is something that I know our communications director can most certainly address.
So, because I think we have lots of avenues of how we can communicate that out to our community. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peschel. I had a little time this afternoon, and I was able to read the latest edition of the Herald, in which Dr. Gundlach was quoted broadly in that, and I think many of the points we heard tonight were also included in that piece, which starts on the first page and continues deeper into the publication. But I thought that was very informative. So it's another excuse me, another information source that I would recommend for people. All right, we do have a special board meeting scheduled then for next week, Thursday, January 16th at 6 p.m. in this room. The purpose of that meeting is to address this resolution. And the reason for that meeting next week is because the Wisconsin law requires that you meet certain timelines as far as preparing for an April referendum. And so if we are going to do that, we do need to meet on the 16th. Normally, our next regularly scheduled meeting would be 2 weeks from tonight, which would be January 22nd. However, that date falls right in the middle of the annual meeting of the Wisconsin School Board Association, Wisconsin Association of School Business Officials, and the Wisconsin Association of School District Administrators. So our next regularly scheduled meeting would be 3 weeks from tonight, which is January 29th, which I believe is outside the boundary of when we have to make a decision. So that's the reason for holding the meeting on January 16th. Are there any further questions or comments from the board? Is there any more information you need, any more questions you have? Dr. Cartwright, do you feel like you have sufficient direction at this point to move forward?
Yes, ma'am, we do have sufficient direction at this time.
All right. Well, with that, I will thank you all for yet another presentation to the board. And I appreciate the diligence with which you got this together, because our meeting right before the holidays was December 18th. I think you've had 5 work days back since then, and this report was in our hands last Friday, so that was 2 days back after the break. So I commend all of you and everyone else who prepared this presentation for this evening, because it was a lot of work on all of you to get us to this stage, especially with the vacation period falling in there. So thank you, and we'll look forward to that special board meeting then on January 16th.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Are there any requests for future agenda items? Seeing none, are there any announcements? Seeing none, we will move on to the next agenda item, which is adjourn to executive session. The purpose would be for one, considering the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin Statute 19.85, paren 1, paren C, A, contract renewals for specific administrators, and B, superintendent contract.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Carlin?
Aye.
Carlin, aye. Evans?
Aye.
Evans, aye. Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Olmsted?
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Peschel?
Aye.
Peschel, aye. Szilagyi?
Aye.
Szilagyi, aye. Motion carried.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned to executive session.